My ex abandoned our son for 4 years, then showed up with a new girlfriend who specialized in helping fathers win custody. My hands shook so hard I fumbled with the deadbolt 3 times before managing to open it. The CPS investigator stood there with her badge asking about my son Rex. My stomach dropped as Rex peeked around the corner, clutching his dinosaur toy, asking who was at the door. The investigator's eyes locked onto him, and her pen started scratching across her notepad. 2 weeks earlier, Rex had bounced into the kitchen with his family tree homework. Mrs. Davidson wanted them to draw people who take care of them. Rex asked if Uncle Sebastian could go in the dad spot, since his real dad never visited. I gripped my coffee mug until my knuckles went white, but forced a smile and explained Uncle Sebastian belonged in the uncle section. Rex looked down and said his friend Tommy has 2 dads on his tree. Why couldn't he? 3 days later, I found Rex drawing with his tongue out in concentration. My heart sank seeing what he'd made. Uncle Sebastian was huge in the center, holding both our hands, while his father was a tiny figure with question marks floating at the edge. I started to suggest changes, but seeing his proud face, I let it go. Rex mentioned Mrs. Davidson looked at his tree for a long time and wrote in her special notebook. At pickup, Mrs. Davidson approached wearing her apple brooch cardigan. She said she'd been teaching for over 20 years, so she knew children said things through art. I explained my brother helped 3 days a week while I worked night shifts as an ER nurse. She just nodded her head like she'd decided something. She reminded me teachers are mandated reporters. That night while Rex splashed in the bath, asking if Uncle Sebastian was in trouble, I got her email. Concerns about emotional boundaries with articles on enmeshment and inappropriate family dynamics. She'd CC'd the principal and counselor. Her 11 p.m. response to my polite explanation said she'd documented my defensive response. The principal called during my shift while treating a car accident victim. CPS would visit within 72 hours. My supervisor immediately suggested I switch to day shifts. There went my night differential pay of $600 monthly. I cleaned frantically for 2 days, making Rex anxious. The investigator arrived while Sebastian helped with homework. She photographed Sebastian's hand on Rex's shoulder during math help. Later on, when Rex ran to hug Sebastian, her pen flew across the page. Sebastian was told to leave for fingerprinting and substance testing. Mia waited in the car. Within days, our life crumbled. Canceled playdates with stomach bug excuses. Rex not picked for reading partners. Birthday invitations withdrawn. The office went silent when I entered. Rex asked why everyone kept asking if I'm okay. I found his Father's Day card for Uncle Sebastian torn up in his backpack. Lauren, a mom friend of mine, whispered at pickup that Davidson was telling everyone we were under investigation. CPS said 6 to 8 weeks minimum. The lawyer wanted $5,000 to start and probably $20,000 total, but legal aid had a 3-month wait list. Sebastian's girlfriend left him, worried about her image dating someone involved in a scandal. Through Lauren, I met Trinity, who told me Davidson reported her for working doubles, $30,000 to fight it, and still lost. She explained that Davidson did this whenever she didn't agree with how a child was being cared for. Davidson documents everything for months before reporting. There were at least 4 other single moms targeted. My FERPA request took 30 days. Within a month, Rex was in therapy for bedwetting and nightmares about notebooks. Sebastian still came when I needed him, but was broken. His boss said background checks affected contracts. Visits dropped to weekly. Rex asked, "Is Uncle Sebastian mad at me?" His 7th birthday had 3 guests of 20 invited. One parent stayed only to observe everything. I sold my grandmother's emerald ring, trying to choose between therapy and groceries. The investigator admitted off record she saw no issues, but her supervisor wanted thoroughness. Rex came home with bruised knees. Kids said Uncle Sebastian was bad, so he pushed Tommy. Now there was a violence incident on record. Davidson emailed about aggressive behavior concerns. Then finally, a meeting was scheduled to close the case. I bought Rex art supplies to celebrate. He wouldn't touch them, asking, "What if I draw wrong again?" That night he asked, "Are they going to take me away?" And I promised never, all while dying inside. The next morning I walked into the CPS office expecting vindication, clutching the folder of character references and Rex's improved therapy reports. The supervisor sat across from me with that same practiced sympathy I'd seen for months. "We're closing the investigation," she said, sliding papers across the desk. Relief flooded through me until I saw her expression. "However, we received new information yesterday that requires a separate investigation." My blood turned to ice as she opened a fresh file. "Rex's father contacted us. He's filing for emergency custody, claiming you've been alienating him from his son and that the investigation proves you're an unfit mother." I sat there frozen, unable to process what she'd just said. Father? The man who hadn't seen Rex in 4 years, who never paid child support, who moved 3 states away without a forwarding address. My hands gripped the edge of the desk. The supervisor pushed another document forward. "He's retained Davidson and Associates, a prominent family law firm. They've already filed the paperwork." She paused, studying my face. "He claims you've been systematically alienating him from his son, using your brother as a replacement father figure." I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. The room spun slightly. "He abandoned us. He hasn't called, visited, or sent a birthday card in 4 years. How can he just show up now? According to his filing, you refused his attempts at contact." The supervisor's voice remained neutral, professional. "He says he's been trying to rebuild his life to provide a stable environment for Rex." My phone buzzed. Sebastian's name flashed on the screen. I excused myself and stepped into the hallway, my legs feeling like jelly. Sebastian's voice cracked through the speaker. "I just got served. Some guy in a suit handed me papers at work. What's happening?" The timing hit me like a punch to the gut. They'd coordinated this. While I sat in this office thinking the nightmare was ending, they'd been setting up the next phase. I explained quickly, watching through the glass door as the supervisor organized her files. "I'm coming to get you," Sebastian said. "No." The word came out sharper than intended. "That's exactly what they want. Any contact between us right now will be documented, twisted." After hanging up, I returned to the office. The supervisor handed me a thick envelope. "The hearing is scheduled for next week. I'd strongly advise getting an attorney immediately." Outside, I sat in my car staring at the legal papers. Emergency motion for custody. Petitioner seeks immediate custody due to respondent's pattern of alienation and recent CPS investigation. My vision blurred. They'd weaponized the very investigation that had just cleared me. I drove to Rex's school on autopilot. The secretary gave me a strange look when I said I needed to pick him up early. She disappeared into the principal's office and I heard muffled voices. My skin prickled. The principal emerged, clearing his throat. "Mrs. Chen, if you'll follow me, there's someone here you need to speak with." My feet felt heavy as I followed him down the familiar hallway. He opened his office door, and there he was, Marcus, Rex's father, sitting in the principal's chair like he belonged there, wearing an expensive suit I'd never seen him afford before, and beside him, Mrs. Davidson. "Hello, Sarah," Marcus said, standing with a practiced smile. "I was just explaining to Principal Hayes about my concerns." Mrs. Davidson clutched her notebook, the same one she'd used to document Rex. "I've been in communication with Mr. Chen about Rex's well-being. As a mandated reporter, I felt obligated to inform him about the investigation." The principal shifted uncomfortably. "Perhaps we should get Rex so you can all talk." "No." My voice came out steady despite my racing heart. "I'm taking my son home." Marcus's smile never wavered. "Our son. And I have every right to see him. It's been far too long." The door opened and Rex appeared with his backpack, led by the office aide. He saw me first and started forward, then stopped when he noticed Marcus. His little face scrunched in confusion. "Who's that man?" Rex asked, pressing against my leg. Marcus knelt down, his voice gentle. "Hey buddy, I'm your dad. I know it's been a while, but I'm here now." Rex buried his face in my side. I felt his small body trembling. Mrs. Davidson wrote something in her notebook. "He's shy," I said, running my hand through Rex's hair. "This is a lot for him." "Of course it is," Marcus agreed, standing. "That's why I think we should start with supervised visitation. Tomorrow perhaps? At the community center on Maple Street. They have a wonderful program for reunification." He'd already researched it, already planned everything. I wanted to scream that he'd abandoned us, that he had no right, but Mrs. Davidson's pen was poised over her notebook, and the principal was watching. "I need to speak with my attorney," I managed. "Of course." Marcus handed me a business card. "Have them call mine. We can work out a schedule that's best for Rex." He looked down at our son. "I'll see you soon, buddy. We're going to have so much fun getting to know each other again." In the car, Rex finally spoke. "Why did that man say he's my dad?" I adjusted the rearview mirror, catching his confused eyes. "Because he is, sweetheart. He's been away for a long time." "Why?" The simple question had such a complicated answer. Because he didn't want the responsibility. Because he chose his freedom over us. Because being a father was too hard. Instead, I said, "Sometimes grown-ups make choices that are hard to understand." "Is he why Uncle Sebastian is in trouble?" My hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Uncle Sebastian isn't in trouble, baby. Everything's going to be okay." okay. But even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. Everything was spiraling further out of control. At home, I called the legal aid attorney who'd consulted on the CPS case. She listened quietly as I explained the situation. I'm sorry, Sarah, but custody cases are outside our scope unless there's domestic violence involved. You'll need to retain private counsel. How much? For a contested custody case? Minimum $10,000 to start. Could go up to $30,000 or $40,000 if it gets complicated. I hung up and stared at my bank statement on the laptop. $3,000 in savings. That's it. The ring money had gone to Rex's therapy and catching up on bills after switching to day shifts. My phone rang. Unknown number. Ms. Chen? This is Patricia Williams from Davidson & Associates. I'm representing your ex-husband in the custody matter. We'd like to schedule Rex's first visitation for tomorrow at 2 p.m. at the Maple Street Community Center. Will that work for you? Tomorrow? That's too soon. Rex doesn't even remember him. Which is exactly why we need to begin rebuilding their relationship immediately. The court will look favorably on parents who encourage bonding. I'll email you the details. After she hung up, I sat in the silence of my kitchen. Through the window, I could see Rex in the backyard, sitting on his swing but not swinging, just sitting. Sebastian texted, found out more. Marcus has been in town for 3 months, has a job at a tech company, living with someone named Trinity. Trinity. The name hit me like ice water. Trinity who'd warned me about Mrs. Davidson. Trinity whose son was taken after Davidson's report. Trinity who'd fought and lost. I called the number she'd given me weeks ago. It rang once before going to voicemail. I tried again. Same result. That evening, while making dinner, Rex drew at the kitchen table. I glanced over to see what he was creating. Another family tree, but this one was different. Stick figures scattered across the page with question marks between them. No lines connecting anyone. What's this, baby? I don't know where to put people anymore, he said, adding another question mark. If that man is my dad, where does he go? And where does Uncle Sebastian go now? And why can't I see him? I knelt beside him. You can still see Uncle Sebastian. He loves you very much. But he doesn't come over anymore. And kids at school say he's bad. He's not bad, Rex. Sometimes people say things that aren't true. He looked up at me with those serious 7-year-old eyes. Is that man going to take me away? No, baby. No one's taking you anywhere. But as I tucked him in that night, I wondered if I could keep that promise. Marcus had planned this perfectly. The timing, the coordination with Davidson, the expensive lawyer. While I'd been fighting to clear my name, he'd been building a case to take my son. I opened my laptop and searched for Davidson & Associates. Their website showcased victories in fathers' rights cases. Reuniting families was their slogan. I clicked on Marcus's lawyer, Patricia Williams, senior partner, specialized in parental alienation cases. My phone buzzed. An email with tomorrow's visitation details. 2 hours at the community center, supervised by a court-approved monitor. A PDF was attached. Guidelines for supporting your child during reunification. I scrolled through it. Don't speak negatively about the other parent. Encourage your child to engage. Remain positive. Any resistance from the child should be gently redirected. Another email arrived from Marcus's lawyer. Our client has also requested Rex's medical records, school records, and therapy notes. Please have these ready for review. My hands shook as I closed the laptop. He wanted everything. Every doctor's visit where I'd marked father not involved. Every school form where I'd left the father's information blank. Every therapy session where Rex had talked about not having a dad. All ammunition now. The next morning arrived too quickly. I dressed Rex in his favorite dinosaur shirt, hoping familiar clothes might provide comfort. He ate breakfast silently, pushing cereal around his bowl. The community center loomed ahead as we pulled into the parking lot. Other families moved through the entrance, some with forced smiles, others with the same hollow look I probably wore. Inside, the supervisor introduced herself with practiced warmth. She explained the process while Rex pressed against my side. Through the glass partition, I watched Marcus arrive carrying an expensive toy store bag. He changed into casual clothes, looking like the involved father he'd never been. The supervisor gently encouraged Rex to enter the playroom. He clung tighter to my hand. I knelt down, smoothing his hair, explaining that I'd be right outside watching through the window. His small fingers reluctantly released mine. Marcus immediately produced a remote-controlled dinosaur from his bag. Rex stood frozen near the door. I watched Marcus crouch down, demonstrating the toy's features. Rex remained motionless. The supervisor made notes on her clipboard. After 20 minutes of Marcus's attempts at engagement, Rex finally touched the dinosaur. Marcus's face lit up with triumph. The supervisor wrote more notes. When the 2 hours ended, Rex rushed back to me. Marcus thanked the supervisor, mentioning how well things had gone considering the circumstances. The supervisor nodded, making final notations. In the car, Rex asked why he had to play with the strange man. I explained that sometimes grown-ups had to follow rules even when they didn't want to. That afternoon, Patricia Williams called. She informed me that based on the supervisor's positive report, they were requesting increased visitation immediately, 3 times per week, progressing to overnight visits within the month. My protests about Rex's adjustment needs were met with legal terminology about parental rights and best interests. The pattern established itself quickly. Every visitation, Marcus arrived with new toys. Rex gradually engaged more, lured by electronics and games I couldn't afford. The supervisor's reports noted increasing comfort with father and positive relationship development. Nobody documented Rex's nightmares after each visit or his questions about why this was happening. 2 weeks into visitations, Marcus began picking Rex up from school on his scheduled days. I arrived one afternoon to find him chatting with other parents, explaining his absence as work-related travel that had unfortunately kept him from his son. The other parents nodded sympathetically. Mrs. Davidson stood nearby, adding supportive comments about the importance of father involvement. Rex returned from an overnight visit asking strange questions. Why did I keep Uncle Sebastian around if it made people worry? Did I know that other kids had regular families? His words sounded rehearsed, like someone else's thoughts in his 7-year-old voice. When I asked where he'd heard these things, he shrugged and said Trinity had explained about different kinds of families. I found myself second-guessing every interaction. When Sebastian called to check in, I kept conversations brief, aware that any contact could be misconstrued. When Rex asked to call Uncle Sebastian for help with the school project, I hesitated, wondering if this normal request would become evidence of inappropriate dependence. The doubt crept in like poison. Marcus's girlfriend finally revealed herself at the next visitation. Trinity approached with a warm smile and manicured nails, introducing herself as someone who understood difficult custody situations. She mentioned her own experience with an ex who'd created unhealthy dynamics with their child. Her eyes held mine as she spoke about children needing stable, traditional family structures. School became another battlefield. Rex mentioned that Trinity volunteered in his classroom now, helping with reading groups. Other parents began including her in conversations while keeping distance from me. She organized playdates that Rex attended during Marcus's time, building relationships I couldn't access. The community shifted, embracing the new family unit while I became the difficult ex. The first custody hearing arrived faster than expected. I sat alone at my table while Marcus's legal team filled theirs. Patricia Williams presented a timeline showing how Sebastian's involvement had increased after Marcus left, suggesting I'd deliberately replace the father figure. Bank records showed Sebastian contributing to household expenses. Photos from Rex's therapy files showed his drawings of Uncle Sebastian in paternal roles. My court-appointed attorney, overwhelmed with cases, had met with me once for 30 minutes. He suggested focusing on Marcus's abandonment, but Williams countered with evidence of attempted contact I'd allegedly ignored. Phone records showed calls to old numbers, letters sent to previous addresses, each piece carefully crafted to show a father trying to reconnect with his son. The judge ordered a psychological evaluation for both parents. The evaluator, recommended by the court, scheduled separate sessions. During mine, questions focused on my relationship with Sebastian, my work schedule, my support systems. Every answer felt like a trap. Discussing Sebastian's help painted me as dependent. Explaining my limited support showed isolation. My defensive responses to months of investigation appeared as paranoia. Marcus's evaluation painted him as a reformed father. He'd attended parenting classes, maintained stable employment, created a 2-parent household with Trinity. The evaluator noted his genuine desire to build a relationship with Rex and concerns about the mother's emotional state following the CPS investigation. The contrast in our reports was devastating. Rex's behavior shifted subtly. He stopped asking for Uncle Sebastian and began talking about Trinity's house, where her children had a playroom and a pool. He mentioned fun family dinners and weekend trips Marcus promised. When I reminded him about our own traditions, he seemed confused, as if those memories were fading under the weight of new experiences. I discovered Marcus had been documenting since Rex's birth. Every birthday card I'd returned unopened. Every attempt at contact I'd refused during those early years when I was drowning in single motherhood. He'd saved receipts for gifts never delivered, printed emails bounced back from closed accounts counts. What looked like abandonment to me appeared as alienation to the court. Sebastian faced his own crisis. Marcus's attorney sent his employer a formal inquiry about the nature of his relationship with a minor child under investigation. Though carefully worded to avoid direct accusations, the implication was clear. Sebastian's boss called him in, explaining that while they supported him, the company couldn't risk association with potential scandal. Contract negotiations stalled. Projects got reassigned. The breaking point came when Sebastian arrived at my door one evening, tears streaming down his face. He'd made his choice. Until the custody matter resolved, he had to step back completely. No contact with Rex, no help with childcare, nothing that could be twisted into evidence. Rex watched from the hallway as his uncle explained he'd be taking a break from visits. The confusion and hurt in Rex's eyes as Sebastian left destroyed what remained of my composure. Without Sebastian's help, everything became harder. I scrambled for childcare, paying rates that consumed my reduced income. Rex spent more time in after-school programs, adding to his feelings of instability. Marcus's attorney filed supplements noting the chaos in Rex's schedule compared to the stability of their household. Every struggle became evidence against me. I researched Trinity obsessively, desperate for anything to counter their perfect family image. Her social media showed a carefully curated life. Photos with Marcus and her children at museums, parks, family restaurants. Rex appeared in newer posts, smiling beside her kids, looking like he belonged. Comments praised her for opening her heart to her partner's child. Late-night searches revealed more. Trinity ran a blog about blended families and parallel parenting, posts about dealing with difficult co-parents who couldn't accept new family dynamics, articles about recognizing parental alienation. Each entry seemed specifically crafted to mirror our situation, building a public narrative that supported their case. The dates showed she'd been writing about these topics months before Marcus officially returned. During a visitation exchange, I tried recording Marcus making subtle threats about taking Rex permanently if I didn't cooperate. He smiled, pulling out his own phone, documenting what he called my aggressive behavior. Trinity stood witness, later submitting a statement about my hostility during exchanges. Every move I made to protect myself became evidence of instability. The guardian ad litem assigned to represent Rex's interests arrived with preconceived notions. Her questions during the home visit focused on Sebastian's absence, the changes in Rex's routine, my work schedule. She noted the modest apartment, the secondhand furniture, the contrast to Marcus's suburban home. When Rex mentioned missing Uncle Sebastian, she probed about the nature of that relationship. Her questions eerily similar to those in Marcus's court filings. Rex's teacher called me in for a conference. His behavior had changed. He seemed withdrawn, confused about expectations. He told classmates his dad was back and he might be moving houses. When asked about his feelings, he shut down, saying he didn't want to make anyone sad. The teacher's concern was genuine, but her documentation would only support Marcus's claim that the current situation was damaging Rex. Financial pressure mounted. Legal consultations drained my savings. Credit cards maxed out covering childcare and therapy costs. I sold everything valuable, including family heirlooms, trying to stay afloat. Meanwhile, Marcus's resources seemed unlimited. Trinity's connections in family court advocacy provided expert witnesses, specialized attorneys, strategic advantages I couldn't match. The school incident happened on a Thursday. Rex pushed another child who said Uncle Sebastian was bad. The playground supervisor documented aggressive behavior, noting Rex's emotional dysregulation. Mrs. Davidson filed a formal report expressing concern about Rex's inability to process his family situation appropriately. The incident became part of court records, evidence of the damage caused by the unstable environment. I confronted Mrs. Davidson after school, my control finally snapping. Parents picking up their children witnessed me accusing her of targeting my family, of training Marcus and Trinity to destroy us. My voice rose as months of suppressed rage erupted. She backed away, claiming fear for her safety. Other parents pulled their children closer, whispering about the unhinged mother making scenes. The restraining order arrived 2 days later. Mrs. Davidson claimed I'd threatened her, that my behavior made her fearful. The school banned me from campus except for authorized pickup times. Rex had to be collected from the office under supervision. The order became another piece of evidence, proof of my deteriorating mental state and danger to others. Marcus's attorney immediately filed an emergency motion. Given my recent behavior, they argued for immediate transfer of custody to protect Rex from an increasingly unstable environment. The hearing was scheduled for the following week. My attorney, overwhelmed and underprepared, suggested I consider accepting their proposed settlement. Supervised visitation for me while Marcus assumed primary custody. I spent sleepless nights preparing my own defense, researching custody law, printing evidence of Marcus's abandonment, bank statements showing years of unpaid child support, school records listing father as uninvolved, medical forms with blank father sections. But each piece of evidence I'd gathered could be explained away by their narrative of alienation. The emergency hearing arrived like an execution date. I sat in the courtroom watching Marcus's team present their case. The restraining order, the psychological evaluations, Rex's behavioral changes. Trinity testified about her observations, professional yet concerned, describing a mother unable to cope with healthy co-parenting. Every word carefully chosen to paint me as the problem. When my turn came, I tried explaining the truth, the coordinated attack, the months of investigation based on false concerns, Sebastian's forced withdrawal. But my words sounded paranoid, desperate, exactly what they'd predicted. The judge's expression remained neutral, but I saw the decision forming behind his eyes. Another difficult mother unable to accept her child's need for both parents. The ruling was swift. Temporary primary custody to Marcus pending final determination. My time reduced to alternating weekends, supervised initially to ensure stability. The judge emphasized Rex's need for consistency, for a peaceful environment free from adult conflict. He ordered continued therapy and regular reviews. In legal terms, I'd lost my son. Rex's transition began immediately. Marcus arrived that evening with Trinity and a moving truck. They packed his things while I watched, helpless. Rex clung to me, confused and crying, asking why he had to leave. I couldn't explain that sometimes love wasn't enough, that being a good mother meant nothing against a well-executed plan. Trinity gently pried him away, promising ice cream and a movie night with his new siblings. The house felt hollow after they left. Rex's drawings still covered the refrigerator. His dinosaur toys scattered the living room, but he was gone, absorbed into Trinity's perfect family tableau. I sat in his empty room, holding his pillow, wondering how fighting to protect him had resulted in losing him entirely. The next months blurred together. Supervised visits at the community center where strangers watched me play with my own son. Rex gradually stopped asking when he could come home. He talked about his new school, his new friends, Trinity's family traditions. The supervisor noted his successful adjustment, how well he'd adapted to the stable environment. Each positive report drove the knife deeper. I discovered the full scope of Trinity's involvement through a chance encounter with another mother from her previous custody battle. She specialized in helping fathers reclaim their children, using her own experience and connections to build cases. She'd trained Mrs. Davidson on recognizing signs of enmeshment. She'd connected Marcus with attorneys, evaluators, supervised visitation centers, every step orchestrated by someone who knew exactly how to work the system. My appeals failed. The court saw a mother who'd alienated a father, created inappropriate family dynamics, and responded to intervention with hostility. Marcus's abandonment was reframed as exclusion, his return painted as redemption. Trinity emerged as the stable maternal figure Rex needed. The narrative was complete, unassailable, devastating in its calculated perfection. Sebastian tried reaching out once, a letter explaining his impossible position, his job, his future, his ability to help anyone depended on staying clear of the situation. He loved Rex, would always love him, but Marcus's threats left no choice. I understood, but felt the betrayal anyway. Another casualty in a war I'd never seen coming. The supervised visits continued their painful routine. 2 hours weekly watching Rex slowly forget our life together. He'd arrive talking about Trinity's house, their vacations, their plans. When I tried sharing our memories, he seemed uncomfortable, like I was pulling him between worlds. The supervisor noted resistance to maternal relationships, suggesting I focus on building new connections rather than dwelling on the past. I learned Marcus never wanted Rex back. During a mediation session, his motivation slipped through. Comments about teaching me consequences, remarks about years of denied access. This wasn't about Rex at all. It was punishment, revenge wrapped in legal legitimacy. Trinity enabled it, adding another child to her collection while destroying another mother she deemed unfit. The final custody determination approached with grim inevitability. My documentation meant nothing against their narrative. Character witnesses couldn't overcome professional evaluations. The truth drowned under legal procedures and strategic manipulation. I sat in my attorney's office as he explained the likely outcome. outcome, suggested accepting reality, moving forward within the framework they'd created. But something shifted when I found Rex's old family tree in a drawer, the one that started everything. Uncle Sebastian huge in the center, surrounded by love and connection. This drawing had been twisted into evidence of dysfunction, but I saw it differently now. Rex had drawn his truth, shown who cared for him, who showed up. That honesty had threatened those who believed family must look a certain way. I thought about all the mothers Mrs. Davidson had reported, Trinity's previous victims, the system that allowed personal vendettas disguised as child welfare. Rex was trapped now in their vision of proper family, his spirit slowly conforming to their expectations. But somewhere inside him lived the boy who drew Uncle Sebastian with love, who knew truth before they taught him to hide it. The fight wasn't over. Not for Rex, not for the next mother they'd target. I began documenting everything differently, not for court, but for Rex to find someday. The truth about who loved him, who fought for him, who was forced away. Evidence that love doesn't always win, that systems can be corrupted, but that fighting for truth matters even in defeat. My phone buzzed with tomorrow's visitation reminder. 2 hours to compress a lifetime of love. 2 hours to plant seeds of memory that might survive Trinity's careful cultivation. 2 hours to be the mother they'd legally diminished but couldn't erase. I would go, smile, play their games, but I would also remember who drew that family tree, who saw love where others saw dysfunction. The war for Rex was lost, but the battle for his memory, his truth, his understanding of what really happened, that fight continued, in supervised visits and careful words, in documented truth hidden for future discovery, in refusing to accept their narrative even as I lived within its constraints. They'd taken my son, but they couldn't take what we'd been before they arrived to fix what was never broken. Tomorrow I would see Rex again. He would talk about Trinity's house and Marcus's promises. I would listen and love him through the distance they'd created. And somewhere in those 2 hours, I would find a moment to remind him that family trees can look different, that love doesn't always follow rules, that Uncle Sebastian existed even if he couldn't anymore. Small acts of resistance in a war already lost, but necessary all the same. The documentation I'd been gathering took on new urgency when I discovered Trinity's pattern through old court records. She'd helped 3 other fathers gain custody using identical tactics. Each case followed the same blueprint. Teacher reports, CPS investigations, and custody battles where mothers lost everything. I spent nights cross-referencing dates, finding connections between Davidson's reports and Trinity's blog posts that predated each intervention by months. My hands trembled as I compiled evidence showing Trinity had coached Davidson before Rex ever drew his family tree. Screenshots of Trinity's private forum where she detailed strategies for documenting enmeshment matched Davidson's reports word for word. The revelation that Rex's suffering had been orchestrated from the beginning made me physically ill. During my next supervised visit, Rex mentioned something that stopped my heart. Trinity was planning to adopt him once the final custody ruling came through. Marcus had already started the paperwork. My son would legally become hers, erasing me completely from his life. The supervisor noted my visible distress as Rex excitedly described becoming a real brother to Trinity's children. I contacted the other mothers Trinity had targeted, desperate for allies. 2 refused to speak, terrified of losing their limited visitation. The third, Alexandra, agreed to meet at a coffee shop across town. Her hands shook as she described losing her daughter through identical tactics. Davidson's reports, CPS investigations, custody battles that drained everything until she had nothing left to fight with. Alexandra showed me documents proving Trinity received referral fees from Davidson and Associates for every successful custody case. The law firm paid her as a family consultant while she orchestrated the destruction of families. We had evidence of financial motivation behind every child she'd helped steal, but Alexandra warned me about using it. The last mother who tried had her visitation revoked entirely. The final custody hearing loomed just days away. I faced an impossible choice: expose Trinity's operation and risk losing Rex forever, or stay silent and watch him disappear into her collection. My attorney advised accepting the current arrangement, warning that judges didn't appreciate conspiracy theories in their courtrooms. I made my decision the night Rex called from Marcus's phone. His small voice asked if I was sick, because Trinity said sick mommies sometimes had to go away to get better. The manipulation was so transparent, preparing him for my complete removal from his life. I couldn't let them erase me from my son's memory. The morning of the hearing, I arrived with boxes of evidence. Alexandra sat in the gallery, trembling but present. 2 other mothers Trinity had targeted joined us, their faces reflecting the same mixture of fear and determination. We'd agreed to risk everything for the chance to expose the truth. Marcus and Trinity entered with their legal team, confident in their inevitable victory. Trinity wore a conservative dress, playing the concerned stepmother perfectly. She made eye contact with each of us, her smile never wavering. She knew we were there, but showed no concern. Patricia Williams opened with a request for immediate adoption proceedings, citing my continued instability and Rex's need for permanent security. She presented Rex's latest therapy notes, where he'd expressed confusion about why his mother didn't want him to be happy with his new family. The therapist, recommended by Trinity, supported the adoption as being in Rex's best interests. When my attorney began presenting our evidence, the judge initially appeared skeptical. Financial records showing Trinity's payments from Davidson and Associates, blog posts that predated each custody battle with identical strategies, Davidson's training materials that Trinity had provided, teaching her to recognize signs that didn't exist. The turning point came when Alexandra testified. Her voice cracked as she described losing her daughter through the exact same process. The judge's expression shifted as she detailed dates, documents, patterns that couldn't be coincidence. When she finished, the other mothers stood up in the gallery, silent witnesses to Trinity's systematic destruction of families. Trinity's composure finally cracked when I presented her private forum posts, celebrating each successful intervention. Her words, bragging about adding another child to her family while their biological mothers learned their lessons, echoed through the courtroom. Marcus's face went pale as he realized he'd been a tool in his girlfriend's collection scheme. The judge called a recess, ordering all parties to remain available. In the hallway, Trinity confronted me, her perfect mask completely gone. She hissed threats about ensuring I never saw Rex again, but Alexandra was recording every word. Marcus stood frozen, processing that his revenge had been orchestrated by someone with darker motivations. When court reconvened, the judge's demeanor had completely changed. He ordered an immediate investigation into Trinity's involvement in multiple custody cases. Davidson and Associates faced scrutiny for their financial relationship with her. Most importantly, he suspended the current custody arrangement pending a full review. The next hours blurred together. Child services arrived to interview Rex at Marcus's home. Without Trinity there to coach him, Rex's truth emerged. He talked about Trinity making him practice what to say about me, how she'd torn up his drawings of Uncle Sebastian, how she'd told him his real mommy was sick and dangerous. Marcus's world crumbled as investigators revealed Trinity's history. She'd built her perfect family by stealing children from mothers she deemed unworthy. Her biological children were from similar situations, their fathers having won custody with her help before she discarded them too. Marcus was just the latest tool, useful for acquiring Rex before he outlived his purpose. The emergency custody reversal happened that night. Rex came home clutching the same dinosaur toy from that first CPS visit, but now he was 2 years older, confused and damaged by months of manipulation. He stood in his old room, looking lost among toys he'd outgrown during his absence. The following weeks revealed the full scope of Trinity's operation. Investigators found connections to 7 custody battles over 5 years. Davidson faced suspension for her role in filing false reports. The community that had shunned me began reaching out with apologies, though the damage to Rex couldn't be undone with sorry. Marcus disappeared after posting bail on charges related to custodial interference. His attempt at revenge had cost him everything, including the son he'd never actually wanted. Trinity faced multiple charges, her carefully constructed family empire crumbling as investigations expanded. Her blog went dark, the forums shut down, but the children she'd collected remained damaged by her twisted vision of family. Rex's healing required intensive therapy to undo months of psychological manipulation. He struggled with guilt, believing he'd betrayed me by bonding with Trinity. Night terrors replaced his old nightmares about notebooks. He asked constantly if I was going to send him away again, unable to trust that home was permanent. Sebastian returned gradually, carefully, with court approval. The first meeting happened in the therapist's office, Rex crying as he apologized for forgetting Uncle Sebastian wasn't bad. The reunion was painful, watching my son struggle to reconcile the truth with months of lies he'd been forced to internalize. The financial devastation from the legal battles left us starting over. The house was gone, sold to pay attorneys. We moved to a small apartment near Alexandra, who'd become an unexpected support system. Other mothers mothers Trinity had targeted formed an informal network, helping each other heal from similar traumas. Mrs. Davidson's teaching career ended with her license revoked. Parents discovered she'd filed reports on dozens of families over her career, always single mothers who didn't meet her standards. The school implemented new oversight policies, though they couldn't undo the harm to countless families she destroyed with her prejudices. Rex slowly began drawing again, tentatively at first. His new family trees looked different, smaller, but Uncle Sebastian was there again. He added Alexandra and her daughter, the other mothers and children who'd become our chosen family through shared trauma. Love didn't look like Trinity's perfect portraits, but it was real. The investigation into Davidson and Associates revealed a network of attorneys and consultants who specialized in manufactured custody battles. Trinity was just one of many who profited from destroying families. The firm faced dissolution, but the system that enabled them remained largely unchanged, waiting for the next predator to exploit it. Months later, Rex started second grade at a new school where nobody knew our story. He made friends cautiously, still carrying scars from his time in Trinity's house. When asked about his family for a school project, he drew me, Uncle Sebastian, and our support network of survivors. His teacher smiled and moved on, seeing nothing wrong with our unconventional family structure. I returned to night shifts, the schedule that had started everything. But now Sebastian could help openly, no longer fearing accusations. Rex did homework at the hospital sometimes, the nurses who'd supported me through everything welcoming him like family. We'd lost so much, but we'd survived. The custody evaluator who deemed me unfit faced review of all her cases. Patterns emerged showing bias against single mothers, especially those with non-traditional support systems. Her license was suspended pending investigation, though it couldn't restore the families she'd helped destroy with her prejudiced evaluations. Alexandra and I started documenting our experiences, not for court, but for other mothers facing similar battles. We created resources warning about the signs of orchestrated custody attacks, the tactics used to manufacture evidence of unfitness. Our website grew as more survivors found us, sharing their stories of systematic family destruction. Rex's therapy continued, addressing the deep wounds from being used as a weapon against me. He struggled with trust, with believing that adults told the truth. The therapist worked patiently to help him process the manipulation he'd endured, the confusion of being coached to reject his own mother. Trinity's trial revealed she'd been planning Rex's adoption before Marcus even filed for custody. Documents showed she'd identified him as a target through Davidson's reports, seeing a vulnerable child she could acquire. Her collection of children faced their own trauma as authorities worked to determine appropriate placements. The night before Trinity's sentencing, Rex had his worst nightmare yet. He dreamed I was sending him back to her house, that everything had been pretend. I held him as he sobbed, promising over and over that he was home forever. The damage she'd inflicted went deeper than any physical abuse could have. Marcus surfaced briefly to sign away parental rights, wanting no part of the aftermath he'd helped create. His revenge fantasy had delivered him into Trinity's web, costing him more than he'd ever imagined. He left town again, this time with no forwarding address and no pretense of wanting involvement. Our apartment felt safe despite its size. Rex's drawings covered every wall, no longer hidden or torn up. Uncle Sebastian visited freely, their relationship slowly rebuilding without fear. We ate dinners together, did homework without documentation, lived normally without constant surveillance. The other children Trinity had collected began reaching out as they aged out of the system. They shared stories of manipulation, of being weapons against their biological mothers. Some reconnected with their real families, others remained too damaged by years of psychological control. Each story added evidence to the growing case against her. Rex started sleeping through the night again after a year of therapy. His drawings showed happiness returning, figures holding hands without question marks between them. He stopped asking if people were going to take him away, beginning to trust in permanence again. School conferences became normal events instead of battlegrounds. Rex's new teacher commented only on his progress, his improving confidence. Nobody questioned our family structure or suggested dysfunction in Uncle Sebastian's presence. We'd found a community that saw love instead of looking for problems. The financial recovery took longer than the emotional healing. Bankruptcy from legal fees meant starting over completely. But Alexandra helped me find better work, and our survivor network provided support traditional families might not understand. We learned that family comes in many forms, not just Trinity's manufactured perfection. Rex asked one day if Trinity was sick like she'd said I was. I explained that some people hurt others while believing they're helping, that Trinity thought she was saving children by stealing them. He processed this slowly, trying to understand how someone could be so wrong while thinking they were right. 2 years after coming home, Rex drew a new family tree for school. This time, he put everyone where they belonged without question marks or confusion. Uncle Sebastian was in the uncle spot, clearly labeled. I was centered as his mom. The trauma showed in how carefully he drew each line, but the confidence was returning. The survivor network grew into a formal organization, providing resources for families targeted by manufactured custody battles. We couldn't change the system that enabled predators like Trinity, but we could warn others and provide support. Every family we helped felt like reclaiming something from the destruction. Trinity's final sentencing brought no satisfaction, just exhaustion. 20 years felt insufficient for the lives she destroyed, the children she'd traumatized. But watching her led away in handcuffs while her victims sat together in the gallery provided some closure. Rex wasn't there. We decided he'd faced enough. The apartment felt like home now, filled with evidence of healing. Rex's laughter returned gradually, real joy replacing the performed happiness from Trinity's house. Uncle Sebastian taught him card games and helped with science projects. We'd rebuilt differently but stronger. Some nights I still checked the locks obsessively, fearing another knock that would shatter our peace. Rex still startled at unexpected visitors. Uncle Sebastian kept copies of court orders clearing him just in case. The hypervigilance might never fully fade, but we'd learned to live with it. Marcus's parents reached out once, hoping to meet their grandson. I declined, unwilling to risk Rex's stability for people who'd enabled their son's abandonment. They'd had 7 years to care. Their interest now that he was rescued from me felt like another potential threat. Rex's therapist gradually reduced sessions as he stabilized. His questions shifted from fear to understanding, processing why adults had lied to him. He showed remarkable resilience, though triggers remained. Any mention of adoption sent him into panic, his body remembering Trinity's plans. We attended court hearings for other families facing similar battles. Our presence silent support for mothers fighting orchestrated attacks. Sometimes we won, sometimes the system still failed. But every mother who kept her children felt like honoring what we'd survived.